Welcome back to Qtronics, where I have all the gear and no idea. So recently I made a video installing a Game ID BIOS into a PlayStation 1, and in that video I said look out soon and I'll show you how to create them, because obviously there's a document out there how to do this, but I've not seen any videos, and I thought, you know, it might be interesting for some of you to see how it's done and some of the tools and the bits you need to actually make it. So first of all, let's show you the bits we're going to need, and I'll talk you through it. So we're going to need some adapters for the, let me get the name right on this chip, the SST39VF040. This is what's going to end up replacing the BIOS in the PlayStation 2, and it goes onto an adapter like this. So yeah, I'll talk you through that in a moment, but they're the initial tools we need. Again, we're going to need I'm using a T48, we're going to need some kind of programmer to program these chips. So first of all, let's head over to the screen and I'll talk you through what's going on. So in the description, I will drop all of the links to all of the stuff we're going to look at. Basically, JDFR228 created a BIOS that you can basically flash and stick in your PlayStation 1, and this allows the game ID to be sent to the memory card of the PSIO or a disk. So obviously this paired with a mod chip and a PSIO is perfect, especially if you have a MemCard Pro 2 or a Pro 1, perfect for this. So in here, he lists his requirements of what you need. And as I said, we're going to need some adapters and bits and bobs. So I will show you the bits that I've ordered. So firstly, you're going to need the actual adapter that goes into the PlayStation. This only works on 32-pin BIOSes, which are the ones that look like this. If you've got a 40-pin, unfortunately, it doesn't work. But this was made by MI213, so shout out to them. Great work. Now, here's the fun part. In the Github, it says you're going to need some kind of adapter, and they're right. MI213 has made an adapter that you can attach and solder some pinheads to, and it'll work with the T48 or the TL866 that she has there, or he has there. Basically, I didn't want to do that, so I bought some adapters when I originally bought my T48. So we'll head back to the screen, I'll show you what I mean. If we head back over to the camera, these are the adapters you can buy. Now, as you can see, this would require soldering the chip onto here, and then we'd have to stick that onto here, the right way up if we do it. Sorry, I'm just going to shut my window, guys, because it's very hot here at the moment. Relative to the UK, obviously. So we'd have to stick that on here, and then eventually that would slot into our T48. Now the problem with this is it's quite tedious. If you're flashing quite a few of these, as you can imagine, if you're flashing quite a few of these, trying to solder that on and off gets really tedious, and obviously there's bits of plastic here as well, so you've got to avoid trying to melt these while trying to get it on using a heat gun. So I did the coward's way, as I'm going to call it, and I went and bought a TSOP32 adapter. Now this adapter cost me around £40. I'll get Ben to flash up how much that is in dollars, so I don't know off the top of my head, but it's quite an expensive adapter really for what it is. Also, this adapter is soldered on backwards, so when I put it in my T48 later, you'll see I have to actually turn it upside down. So weird, I don't know why that's the case, but it is. But yeah, so that's it. So that's what your adapter options. Unfortunately, that is it. So if you're coming to flash them, you can either order some adapters. If we head back over the screen, you can either order some adapters when you order the adapter.
I don't understand you. What do you want?
You can order some T866 adapters as you order the BIOS adapter, or you can look at buying something else with your T48. Or if you're going to get quite a few of these, buy one of these, because this is a lifesaver. I did a few with this, and it just takes time. So heading back over to the Github page, spoken through how you need to do the adapters. This is the chip we'll be using, which is what I mentioned at the start, the SST39. This is the 10. Sorry, not this one. Let me correct that for you. It should be the 040. That's better. So the SST39VF0470. Again, I'll link it down in the description so you don't mess up. That 010 was actually another story. I ordered some from AliExpress and they sent me the wrong chips. I ordered the 40 and they sent me the 10, so I checked up on it. And unfortunately, I killed the PlayStation 1 with that because I hadn't checked after I'd installed it. Rookie mistake. Right then, so back to it. To actually create the patch, we need a few things. We need the Delta patch, which is part of this GitHub inside of the patches. So pick the one that matches your console. And then we need a PlayStation BIOS. Now, classic YouTuber fashion, here's a BIOS I prepared earlier. Now, this is the part where you're going to have to go on the internet, do a little Google search and find your own BIOSes. I can't list them on here, unfortunately. So once you've got your BIOS and once you've got your Delta patch, then we can carry on. One caveat I will mention is when you're downloading these patches, don't right click and save them. When you do that, they lose some of their header values and they won't patch properly. So go into it and click download raw file, else you'll get some issues when you try and patch it. Right. So now we have our Delta patch downloaded, and our bin file. We can now look at patching them. So there's an online patcher, which is brilliant. Save you download anything. The GitHub does say to download it, but I'll drop the online one in the description. So as you can see, I'll refresh the page. I was doing this just to make sure it's all working. So we select our source file, which would be our existing patched bin. Our existing non-patched BIOS. We then select the patch file, which would be our Delta. And then, nice and simple, apply patch. As you can see up here, it's downloaded for us. So I'll go and grab that and put it into our folder, which is here. Now, on the GitHub page, which I'll flip back to, there is a checksum you can use here. So we can check the original and check the patched to make sure it should be as it is. So if we go to a CRC32 file checker, we can check both of those. I will link this in the description as well. Again, online, nice and easy, no messing about. So if I drag the original, this is the original BIOS in here. I'll get that out so we can go side by side here, if it would let me do it. Right, so as you can see on the right here now is the GitHub, and on the left we can see, cursor the demo there. Right, let's get the original source file. So 318.178bf, and we're using a 7002 board from PAL. So 318.178bf. So the original is fine. If we now pick the patched version, open that up, and double check that it makes the number here, or well, the X here, or the CRC32, I should say. 3F1 EA687. So that is a patched BIOS. That BIOS is exactly as it should be. So now we can actually get on to the part you've come for, really, which is the flashing. So now that's done, we don't need anything else on that GitHub now. We can move straight over to XG Pro, because obviously, as I mentioned before, I'm using the T48. So I'm going to get my T48 plugged in. With all of these programmers, there's going to be a difference here. Now, if you've seen my previous video with flashing, it was really easy to do the SOC 8 chip. This is a little bit different. So if we search for our chip, which I've already done here, you can see there is a plethora of different versions here. We're not using the A variant, so we can ignore that. We're using one of these. Now, this adapter here is a pin 1 adapter. So if you were to use one of these, you would click TSOP32. So if I show you what that means, if we click into that, you look on the device config, pin 1 is mapped to pin 1 on the chip. Whereas on this chip, pin 1 is actually mapped to pin 9. So if we click back into the select there, you can see there's a pin 9 to pin 1 mapper. That's the one we want. So I select that, and as you can see at the moment, nothing's here. So I'm going to now put my chip into here, get it into the T48 Programmer, and show you that it's a completely blank chip. Now, as I mentioned, on mine here, pin 1 should actually be here. But this is some reason soldered backwards. So we actually have to turn it around here. So if you're looking and thinking, why is pin 1 down here but pin 1's up here? It's just an absolute joke with this one. I don't know why this has been soldered on backwards, but it has. And I'll show you the config on the screen. You can see pin 1 is actually mapped to pin 9 of the chip. Don't know why it's like that, but it is for my chip. So let's get it in, and then I'll get it programmed. So again, if you're looking at chips, you can see this dot here indicates pin 1 of the chip. And we want that in the top left corner. Just want to make sure it's all nice and lined up, which it is. And then, if I remember right, we can drop this into my finger. Now, as you can see, normally it would be a 32-pin adapter. This adapter is a 40-pin adapter, which is why I think it's been soldered on backwards. I normally do 32-pin, which is what the T688A or the 866A, that would be a 32-pin. This is 40. So if we drop this in now, right, the chip is in. So now the first thing we can do is to check if it's blank. That's what I like to do. So as we move back over to the screen and we go to blank, we can do a blank check. And as you can see, that chip is blank and that chip has been read perfectly. Right, now the next thing we need to do is load our new BIOS file. So with this one, we can just go straight to our file, downloads, PS BIOS, and then we have this patch BIOS, which is what it calls it immediately off the X Delta patcher. Nice and easy. If we select that and we OK it, you can see we now have it all loaded up, and it'll say what it is here. Tell you what the PS. See, it says Sony PlayStation. Just want to make sure it's all good, and we're not seeing any big blank bits at the bottom. Oh, well, we will see blank bits at the bottom, but that's fine. Sorry, I was thinking the mod chip in my head. The mod chip doesn't have any blanks. I just can't remember if it says what BIOS it is somewhere. I can't remember if it does that or not. But anyway, as I mentioned, we've done the checksums, so technically this is the exact BIOS that we need. Right, now that's done. All we need to do is click program. Nice and simple, program this BIOS. This will take a bit longer because obviously this is a bigger file compared to the mod chip I did in the last one, if you saw that video. I'll just wait for this to check. Right, now it's going to verify that flash. Verification succeeded. Now, I'm a bit over the top with this. What I like to do is blank it all, read from the chip. So this is read from the chip now, nice and good. And then finally, I like to blank it all again, reload the original, and just run my own little verify, just in case something got messed up in the process. I don't think it has, but I like to make sure, because obviously I'm going to solder this onto a board, and if it doesn't work, I've got to unsolder it and do this again. So yeah, I'm happy that all works now. So that is it. That is all we need for the computer. Now I'm going to jump over to the scope and we'll solder this chip on to the adapter. And then after that, I will link my video of me installing one of these, and then you can see the full process. So yeah, anyway, I'll head over to the scope now. Catch you in a second. Right then, so we're over to the scope now, guys. So I'm trying to show you what the chip this is what the adapter looks like. Now, as I said, it was made by Me213, and as you can see, they've ever so kindly pointed to pin 1 being up here. So when we need to solder this on, we need to make sure that pin 1 of the chip, so the circle of the chip, goes in this top left corner. Now you can use a hot plate for this, which is something like this. You could use a hot plate, warm up the board, solder around it, just drop it on. I'm going to do it by hand just to show you what it looks like by hand. But let me know in the comments if you want to see me use the solder, if you want to see how this works for future projects, let me know. So right then, I've got the board mounted in a holder now for myself, just to make it that little bit easier. Now, what I suggest here is, if you get a bit of flux and rub it on the points we need to solder onto, it should theoretically hold the chip in place. So I'm going to put a little bit in the middle, just a tiny little bit of flux in the middle, and then I'm going to run some flux down the points. And then if we get the chip, hopefully it should hold the chip in place, because obviously it's very tiny. We're talking here, like, you can see how tiny these are. So once we line it up, hopefully the flux will hold itself in place. Just going to have a look at the other side, make sure that all looks lined up. So let's get the iron hot and get some pins tacked in. I'm going to actually move over to the other side first, just because I'm right-handed predominantly, and it just makes it a little bit easier for me. Right, I'm putting the extract fan on now, guys, so hopefully it's not too much noise. So again, we just want to try and tack the corners in, and then so as you can see, the chip will move a little bit. Right, now I'm just going to go and tack in one of the other corners now. This way we've still got a bit of movement. There we go, and then just double check everything's in line on the bottom here, which it should be. Let's get this bottom left corner in as well. That's a little bit too much solder on that one. There we go, that's in. Right, now we can just solder all the points. I'm not sure why it's sticking up ever so slightly. Might be how the chip's sat, but let's go over to the right side now and sort that out. I've just got too much solder on. I knew it was going to happen. We get a slightly bigger tip. I'll come back to it at the end and I'll just get it all soldered on now, and I'll just sort that bridge out at the end. Let me get a bigger tip. I'm not happy with this. Let's just check they're all soldered in probably over here. Solid, solid, solid. Solid as a rock. Solid, 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 solid. Cool. There you go. See, sometimes just having that little bit of a bigger tip can help. Right, I'm just going to flip the board around just to make it easier for myself. Bit more flux. Flux is your friend. Don't eat it though. It's not good for eating. Right, there's no bridges there now. Does anyone here bridge, or is that a bit of fluff? Just a bit of fluff. Right, let's just double check they're all soldered in, and then we're done. But we're not quite done yet. We need to patch this. I'll explain that in a second. So that's good. That's good. That's good. Solid, solid, solid. Solid, 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 and solid. So that's it, that's all soldered on now. The only thing we need to do is this down here. Originally, this was designed for write protection. So if it's open, you could write to the BIOS, but for some reason, I can't remember why, we can no longer do it that way, so we have to do it the way we've done it, just where we programmed it before we stuck it on. So don't forget to bridge this here. So just put a solder and bridge it. I mean, you can use a 0 ohms resistor, I believe, but I'm just going to bridge it. That's what I wanted, a nice bubble. Right then, now that's bridged, we're all done. So I'll turn the scope off and we'll give it a clean up and we'll get to the end. I'll see you in a sec. And there we have it. A freshly done SPA, is it SPH? Oh, hang on, my head's just gone blank here. A freshly done 7002 BIOS. There we go, nice and done. Hopefully guys, that's been really helpful now. And if you want to flash your own BIOSes, now you know how to do it. As I mentioned, I'll link everything down in the description. I'll also link my video to installing this so you can see what happens when you install this and how it works so nicely with the MemCard Pro 2 which I have. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe as it really helps the channel to grow. And let me know of anything else you want to see. If there's other things that need programming that you've never seen before, let me know and I'll see if I can get a video out for them, if I can source the parts, and we'll go from there. Anyway guys, thank you very much for watching and I'll catch you next time. See ya.